Hello there guys, it's Joey, looking like the humid bunny from that meme, my goodness. And this video is going to be catching up with the YouTube Pagan challenge, and the questions that I have missed are your feelings on this time of the year, which I'm not going to be harping on about for very long, mainly because I don't like this time of year and I don't think it would be a very good video of me sitting here going, yeah, not my bag. And then talking about altar tools and if they are important to us and why they are important to us and so on and so forth. So just to quickly get the Lughnasadh part out of the way, I struggle with this time of year every single year. I'm not a fan of summer and it's my least favourite season and I could quite happily skip it. And every time, you know, inevitably there are people who love the summer who get quite annoyed at me. But I've never liked it, never. As a kid I was happier when I was in school and when I could see my friends a little bit more and when I could be away and studying and all the rest of it. So I didn't like summer holidays as a kid. I must be one of very few, but I hated it. And that's full on Harry Potter. And I don't like the heat, I don't like the mugginess, I don't like the hay fever, I don't like the bugs. So I could go on, but I won't. I struggle with this time of year. It's always difficult. Difficulties always arise. It's still part of my process trying to make peace with it and remembering the things that I do like about it. I do like it when it's pretty much nighttime, but it's not dark because it's summer and it's a bit cooler. I don't mind that. So I'm trying to focus on something that I don't mind. So there you go. As for altar tools, I was thinking to myself, this can quickly escalate into a negative topic as well. Inevitably, conversations about altar tools can lead into conversations about materialism within paganism, and it all becomes quickly quite negative, I think, if we allow it to. And I was sat there thinking, you know, I don't want this to be a complete show and tell video. I've got 2 wands and a couple of other bits, so we can do a little bit of show and tell, because I think a little bit's okay, a little bit's fun, you know, it's always nice to see other people's tools and altars and things, and it is something that appeals to people en masse, and there is a reason for it. And I think the thing about altar tools that I think we should really bear in mind, and this is the driving point of how I feel about altar tools, is that you don't have to justify your altar tools to anybody. And there has been a climate over many years, probably even longer than I've been thinking and discussing it, of altar tools and this kind of, you must justify anything you buy, you must justify anything you make, you must justify material things. And to me it's a little bit of a sad battling that somehow if you have altar tools you're less spiritual because you should have nothing but yourself and you are the most important spiritual tool. And whilst that is true, you absolutely are, and you don't require anything to be a witch, as I have to disclaim in my I Can't Witch Without videos every single week, because inevitably otherwise there'll be comments of, you're saying you need this to be a witch then, and no, I'm not. But it's a weird thing that exists, that physicalness has no place in spirituality. And whilst I think greed and materialism to the detriment of everything else is a problem in spirituality in the world in general, we go too far in the other direction, demanding people try to justify their altar tools, things they might have around the home, how many crystals they buy, how many wands they have, how many tarot decks they have, whether or not they are using them all regularly enough to justify that. And it becomes like a egotistical value judgment exercise in spiritual one-upmanship through not having things, which is supposedly where the argument started to counteract people one-upmanship from having things. And it all becomes a bit cross-eyed. And I was sat there thinking to myself, how do I address altar tools in this video? How do I address something that I think needs to be spoken about within altar tools, and have a conversation, a dialogue that I think might be a little bit offbeat and worth having maybe? And so as I sat there and thought about altar tools and my altar tools and which altar tools I use and why I use them, I became acutely aware that I think it's very much a sense of style. It's very much a branding of one's spirituality almost. It's about putting one's mark, one's imprint on to one's working, witchy, pagan, whatever you like, practice. We have things that aesthetically please us, that energetically please us, that we connect with on some level. And that's not something to be shrugged off just because an item is a material item. And, you know, there are beautiful, wonderful creations that pop up to supply people with craft materials, and people craft all sorts of things. One really wonderful example of things that I regularly-ish purchase is from Beth Wildwood, and that's the antler art pieces, and I can see two of them from here, and there's another one over there on that altar, and they have paintings of crows and magpies and things of that nature on, and she supports a wildlife sanctuary that she helps run with her profits from her heart-based business, and I'm part of a heart-based business group and supporting other people who do sell altar tools and this, that and the other, and I myself create items that I believe are to assist with spiritual growth, well-being, whatever, spell work, whatever it may be. So for me, spiritual items, physical items, and one's sense of branding one's path working only makes sense to me, because these are like physical representations of my relationship with the divine, with spirituality, with the Morrigan, with aspects of spell work, with my witchcraft. And being a creatrix is important to me in terms of expressing my spirituality, and my spirituality comes through my hands. It's like creating little glimpses into how I see, feel, and connect with energetically spirituality. And so for tools, I think they become like little indirect symbols of who we kind of are, our personal flavour, if you like. And I've always said that the altar to me is a physical representation of our relationship with the divine. So the reason that we enjoy looking at other people's altars is because you get a little bit of a keyhole inside through the keyhole look into somebody's spiritual connection and how they physically represent it and how they symbolically use this, that and the other. And sometimes it can be inspirational, and if it's inspirational, that means seeing something and taking like a fragment of it and thinking and connecting with that idea and thinking there's something about that resonates with me, taking that and looking at your altar and thinking why did that red cloth with that black background resonate with me, and is this something that I want to investigate further and bring into my sacred space? It's not copy and pasting, because that's something else. That's a lack of thought process, that's a lack of connectivity. But seeing other people's beautiful, inspiring, unique altar spaces with the altar tools on them can be really visually triggering in a way, because you are getting it's like looking at a piece of art. You are seeing what you're seeing the physical piece of art, and then you are seeing into the thought process of the artist. You're seeing the heart of the artist, you're seeing the soul of the artist, you're seeing something deeply personal without being overly intrusive into somebody's spiritual path. And that's what I think altar tools really are, whether they be bought or made. And I've got my wands out, or two of my wands I should say, to really drive this point home, because then inevitably with altar tools you get the arguments of you should make your own versus you buying them or whatever. And this is my thought process with that. There are some things that some of us are just not good at. I can't paint or draw very well. I can paint okay. I can't draw very well. And if I was to draw something and hang it above my altar and I was to look at it and I was to think, man, I can't draw, and man, I don't like that, and I can see where that error is, and I can see, and that puts a negative focus in something that's spiritual. So rather than looking at a piece of Beth Wildwood's art and thinking, I freaking love that, I love that colour, I love that movement, I love that it's on naturally fallen altar, antler, I love that what it goes to support, I love her work, I think it's great. And you see how positive that reaction comes from just seeing it every time. Then I'd rather have that positive reaction to somebody else's beautiful work and support them than not. But with regards to wands, I have one of each with me, and if you've been with me, then you know, you've seen these before. So we'll start with the bought piece, which is a Rowan wand. This is the very first wand I ever purchased. I purchased it from Canterbury when I lived there, and there was a local witch who only made 5, I think, of these, and she made some miniature ones as well. But this was the only Rowan one, and it's amethyst as well, and it's almost the it's just slightly shy of, it's, you know, how they say that your wand is supposed to go from your elbow to the tip of your finger. It's almost there. Slightly under. But this wand has stayed with me throughout, like losing my home, losing almost everything I've owned. This has stayed with me throughout everything. And that to me speaks volumes about its intrinsic value, that it's supposed to have come to me. It's a very beautiful, very feminine wand, despite being Rowan, which can quite often be quite masculine, but it is an absolutely beautiful piece, one of a kind, and I love this piece, I love it. Now I'm going to say right here that for me wands have to be wooden. I'm very fussy about wands in particular. I can only connect with wood, it has to be wood, and I do adore it. And then there's the wand that I made myself. So this actually looks more like a weapon, which is typical of things that I end up making myself of this nature. This is the Morrigan wand. So this is hawthorn. See how it looks like a bow? Like a, I can't really hold it. There you go. So it's kind of got a curve to it. I kind of like that. I think that, you know, there's archery in my birthplace, because my place of birth is Nottingham, which is Robin Hood, which is archery, and it's got a very, very unique feel to it. It feels much like a, I quite frequently use this like that rather than perhaps the more directional energy of the other wand. Hawthorn's a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more warrior-esque, with the quartz on there and the crow feathers, and I made this as part of devotional to Morrigan, so it has that added feel to it. So there you go, there's one that I have made and one that I haven't, and they're completely different, and they and they are boing, and they are, oh goodness, now I've gone confused and just being silly. Right, but they feel completely different and have different uses, and I love having both of them in my practice. I love to direct energy with them. Now, I am going to say right here and now that I am more of a blade person than I am a wand person. I end up accumulating wands for some reason or other. People keep gifting me wands, and like I have crystal wands, which I do use for the crystal grids almost exclusively, and some healing work, so they don't get used on the altar, but people keep gifting me ones. Like, I use blades. I'm much more of a blade person. I'm not going to show my blade on camera particularly, because it's a little bit more precious. A little, you know, some people won't show their altar tools, and I'm completely cool and down with their decision to do that. I understand that totally, why that would be. The other thing about altar tools that I've already kind of mentioned is kind of like the utilization of your own crafting and creatrix. So I have like a very tiny amount of my Lust of Morrigan oil, which is almost completely gone. which I use all the time. On my altar space, I cleanse altars with them, I anoint with them. There are 3 crows that have just landed on that roof. That's interesting. Every time I'm making videos, there's something going on in the background. It's like the world like, hi. And then the candles that I make and use myself. These are the Celtic Sanctuary ones. Ooh, shimmy, shimmy. Oh, it smells so good. And I do like to bring my tools of that nature into my altar space a lot. I use them to honor Morrigan, I use them to cleanse space, I use them for so many things. Spell work, focusing your magic, focusing your healing work, focusing your intentions to the gods, and so on and so forth. So I really do feel that altar tools are more to do with your personal sense of style. And it's interesting to me that you don't really see these lines of argument so much with regards to how somebody dresses themselves and what jewellery they tend to wear. You see it sometimes, but generally speaking, even if it's in spiritual denominations, say somebody is quite Gothic, for example, because I can talk about that because my sister was Gothic and I have a few Gothic pieces. In the witchy community, you don't tend to see people their right to be Gothic in their physical style, and they're people are very unlikely to question somebody's allowance to be then Gothic on the altar either. But then if you step away from something like that, people then start to question whether or not altar tools are necessary. I mean, maybe you do get questions and arguments for, oh, why is your altar Gothic? You don't need it to be Gothic. Maybe, and I've just not heard that so much. But it is this weird, like, if you're not bothered by how somebody dresses as a witch, well, some people probably are because they're bothered about everything about somebody else does. But if you're not bothered about the way somebody dresses and presents them physical self, but you're bothered about how they dress their altar, because ultimately the altar is symbolic. It's a physical thing. It's a place. It's a representation. It's not necessarily indicative of what's going on spiritually with that individual. You don't know that. That's behind closed doors for the most part, and as it should be, you know, it's their personal interrelationship with the divine and themselves, and working on themselves and changing the world around them and learning about the world around them and interconnecting with energies and spirits. So if altar tools ultimately help you to do that, then I don't see what the problem is personally. I think it gets a little bit too high horsey with regards to telling people what they can and cannot do when really it's their spiritual path. And if we go too far down that road of telling people what can and cannot do, then we become something else. We become like we're trying to be dogmatic. We become like we're trying to emulate systems of religion which tell people how they should worship, where they should worship, what they should wear when they worship, and that becomes controlling, and it becomes negative, and it becomes destructive to the spiritual path in general, which is why a lot of the more dogmatic religions have a lot more problems because of their refusal to change. And that was a really quick line of thought just fired out. Boom, 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 boom. Fired out there. I like the idea that, you know, somebody's spiritual tools are just their groove. It's just how they get the groove on. Right, enough. Okay, and if they buy something and that works for them, and they get to know it, they bond, they form a relationship with something, then that becomes theirs. It becomes part of them. It becomes part of their spirituality. It doesn't matter if they bought it. It doesn't matter if they found it in a thrift shop. It doesn't matter if they went out into the forest and found it on the ground and brought it home and then painted it. I mean, there is something beautiful in making your own tools, and if you can and you want to, then you should. But you shouldn't feel guilt-tripped into doing anything in spirituality, because the guilt is not a good thing. Telling somebody, and you know, it doesn't help anything. It just sort of displaces this kind of negative vibration that shouldn't be entered into the equation, as far as I'm concerned. I think, you know, if you know that something really gels with you and jams with you and makes you feel good, and you like looking at it and it brings a sense of something in, It's like tarot card meditations. If you really, really bond with a tarot card, you can jump into that tarot card and you can see that imagery and that's flying through your brain and it's giving you messages and it's connecting with the divine. It doesn't matter that somebody else doesn't like it as a tool. Why does then altar tools differentiate here? There are thousands upon thousands, probably millions of different tarot decks. And I don't think I've ever heard somebody tell someone that you should use a particular tarot deck, otherwise you're not a real tarot reader. So why is it that in like paganism or witchcraft you're not a real witch if you need tools? Tools are just an extension of ourselves, yes. Do you absolutely have to have tools? Must you? No. But you must not either, I think, is what I'm trying to get. And if something gels with you, if something brings out a part of you that you like, if you know, you're holding your Morrigan wand and it's making you feel all warrior-esque and grr baby, then do it. Just do it and enjoy your spirituality. I think that's the main thing, is that, you know, we forget sometimes that these things are here to be enjoyed while we're on the earthly plane leading a physical existence in witchcraft, which is a physical act. It's a craft. Right, on that note, that's enough, I think. So, I hope this video was informative, maybe interesting, hopefully, daft, incredibly. And that's it for this video. Many blessings.